Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to New Thought Talk Show, the show where we simply take a subject, we deal with it with the hopes that you all and we all come away with a new thought or new understanding about that particular subject. Now, on today's show, this is our last show of the year of 2015. And what we thought we would do is just do a wrap up show of the biggest news stories and just kind of recap some of those things that happened over the course of the year of 2015. And we also want to tell you about some things that we're going to be doing in the year 2016. So, without further ado, let's get started on that, guys. So, one of the biggest things, and these are in no particular order, as they're coming to mind, the last biggest thing that we kind of discussed was the attacks in Paris and how all that started. Now, it's an atrocity. It's really bad that we're in that position in our country, in our nations, where we have to, where things like that feel like they have to happen to prove a point. So, uh, any thoughts about that? Those Paris things that we didn't talk about before, or any just recaps on those that you guys want to deal with?
I can't say there's anything that stands out that can be said right now about it, other than the fact that it just causes us to reevaluate things, our level of safety, and really what can you do to prevent this from happening? What is it? What is in our power to do? So do we just continue to live and pray for the best? I
Well,
just don't know.
I don't know the answer to that question, but it is affecting the world. It's affecting our nation, the U.S. On people are afraid. People are afraid of. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, some schools shut down because of bomb threats. Our
Yeah.
presidential election is centered around it almost. We're looking at our next president to be the kind of person to be, you know, attack this situation or try to balance the situation where we don't start a war. Um, and it affects everyone. It affects everyone outside our country also. Everyone's looking at Islam in fear. Uh,
Yeah, there's Islamophobia for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
it's funny. There's this guy. I don't know if you guys saw the little YouTube meme
yeah,
thing where the guy's running around.
yeah.
He's doing like this
Throw a
fake, this
bag.
throwing it
Yeah,
back. He has this Islamic attire on. He's walking around sitting bag in front of people, and people are just freaking out. Like they just break out running. Like this one guy jumped in water and all that kind of stuff. It was actually kind of funny.
yeah. It's funny.
But
Yeah,
I mean, that's the humor part of it. But it's
it's
a very
serious.
yeah, it's a
It's
very
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 serious.
serious thing that the whole Paris situation causes us. And you bring up a good point about that's kind of what our presidential candidates for 2016 are kind of, or that they kind of focused on at one particular time, which is always a problem I have with presidential candidates. They always seem to be not be proactive and be reactive. We wait
Right,
until something happens and then they start talking about it.
Or they're
And
trying to
then
monopolize on
right,
our fear,
right,
and I think
absolutely,
that's manipulative.
yeah,
right. And
absolutely,
we end up with someone we don't need. Just
right,
because people think that he's going to do something about this one thing, but we have
All
80.
these other
We have all
things.
these other things that we need to deal with, and they handle those things horribly. And their promise probably they'll never even handle the things the way they said they would because
Well, they can't. One, because one of the things I say all the time, the part of the problems that we're dealing with are not political issues; they are human issues.
Mhm.
You can't legislate uh, racism. For an example, you can't legislate those kind of things. So to sit there and argue about, and debate about what we should be doing and how we should be doing it, when it doesn't have anything to do, well, when it has all to do with simply managing crises or
right,
crises,
yeah,
I guess is how you pronounce it, managing those type of things instead of being proactive and saying this is what we need to do as a human society to fix these type of problems in our community. So
right. And
and
that segues into the Kim Davis issue,
mhm,
talking about moral issues in
sure,
regards to marriage, and that's also coming up in the presidential election. How people feel about that in regards to their religion.
mm,
Well, I mean, we already know our stance on that, but I mean, that's just where we are today with the presidential election. Like I said, a lot of it is dealing with human issues. Things that I feel like the president shouldn't deal with.
But here's my concern, that we get so wrapped up in who is the president, which is generally um, one man. We could be a one woman. But let's look at who's in Congress, who our legislature.
Sure,
We don't
exactly.
concern ourselves with who's running for that and who's running. And these people have been in office for 10, 15, 20 plus years.
Yes.
And if we don't do something to affect that change, this one person
Yeah.
cannot make all the change. And I think that for some reason we have been brainwashed to believe that the president has all of this power. Now,
That's
there is checks and balances, okay?
right.
So we have 3 branches of government.
Sure.
And you need to exercise your right to vote for all 3, not just one. Because that
Right.
one, I don't know, I was having a conversation with a young man from Howard, and he is
Oh God, Howard. No.
he is so adamant to say that, I don't want to vote. I'm like, this is an educated young man. He's like, well, why vote? Because he said they're all having lunch together. The prosecutor and the
Defense, sure.
defense attorney. They're I say they're in bed together.
Mm-hmm.
And so what difference does it make my vote? He said, what matters is who's in Congress. But people don't vote for that.
Sure.
We vote for the big one, and then you need to know, even at the lower level, that's what matters, that affects you immediately.
Sure.
Yeah, local government is important also.
But, I mean, that's not our 2015 wrap-up, but that is something we
Yeah,
need to
that's
be
something we're kind of
cognizant
passionate about.
of.
Something that we're looking forward to talking about more in 2016. So anyway, one of the other issues that came up in 2015, one of the biggest news stories was the whole situation with the Confederate flag. Really, really big issue, caused a lot of racial tension
And divide.
that stirred up a lot more of it because it was already there.
Right.
The whole Black Lives Matter movement got involved with it. There's a lot of things that came from it, and that was just another atrocity. Again, it kind of shows where we are as a human society, where we still have to deal with things like that, where people feel that a flag, something like a symbol, because that's all a flag really is, something like a symbol, that it has to be in place when it's causing so much divide, so much racial tension and stuff like that. You would think, at least if I was in the mindset of the common good for everybody, I would think that if I have something here that's offending people in this in this big racially divided nation that I live in, that it would just be a lot easier. Okay, well, let me take this off my car. Let me get this out of my yard. Let me take this off this federal building. It doesn't mean that I don't have pride in this flag anymore. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means that I understand that there's a bigger issue right now, and I can still have the same sort of, dedication to my flag and stuff like that I've always had without it showing on my house.
That's kind of like the biblical reference where it says, if eating meat in front of my brother offends him, then I won't do it. It's not to say that I'm not going to eat it,
Right.
but while he's sitting there,
Sure.
I don't want to offend him.
Yeah.
I think that we've lost that.
People just have insensitivity to how people feel about that flag, and some people, because of their pride, they don't care how other people feel. But I mean, if you go through a Jewish neighborhood with a swastika, never know what's going to happen to you.
Right.
Okay,
So
don't try it.
Should feel the same way about that Confederate flag, in my opinion.
And it's part of that is too that we've become this really, I don't even know how to describe it, this nation of just really sensitive, overly sensitive.
Or
I think-
insensitive at the same time.
Yeah,
We are
that's a
so
good point.
oxymoronic that,
That's a good point.
like, are you going to be sensitive or are you going to be insensitive? Or is
Yeah, well, we have to argue with my famous saying, the Starbucks.
I knew
cup.
you were coming to it.
It's just like that was the worst to me, and I'm gonna talk about that for a second. That for me, 2015, that had to be the lowest of the low, where there was a big, huge debate and debacle going on about the design on a Starbucks cup. Like when we come to like arguments and stuff like that, you really think about this for a second. This is what I say that we are as a nation all the time. I say we seem like a bunch of 9 and 10-year-old kids bickering over toys. That's really what it feels like to us. Like, no, you can't play with mine. No, don't put that on your wall. No, give me my truck back. No, don't put that on your truck. Don't put that on your cup, on your Starbucks cup. That's what it feels like to me.
Or Rachel, you can't be black.
Hello. So I mean, it's just like that's the dumbest thing on earth to me. But anyway, I'm off my soapbox now. I'm done with the Starbucks cup because it doesn't deserve any more of my attention.
Please.
But anyway, yeah. So that whole Confederate flag thing was a large issue. The next biggest issue, and you guys remember this,
You did not do that.
the Bill Cosby. The Bill Cosby scandal, guys, like that was really big this year. They
ran him.
They
through the
ran
mud.
him. They attacked Bill Cosby. His name at
Is-
this point is
Mud.
pretty much. I mean, and it's very unfortunate. I think it's very unfortunate because of all of the philanthropy that this guy has done and all of the good that he has done in our society. As of now, we still have no proof that he has not been convicted of any crime as of
Right.
the taping of
But
this
in the
video.
court
Yeah.
of public opinion, he is guilty.
Right, and that's the whole thing. So, in my book, he's innocent until proven guilty. People do stuff all the time, and I don't want to make. I think we talked about this before. I don't want to make light of, him if he committed those particular acts.
Right.
I don't want to make light of it at all. It is a very serious issue and offense, and if he did do it, there should be some sort of punishment in line for him.
Well, I think he's definitely suffering. But if we're speaking of rapists, let's talk about Hout's Claw. That how you say it? Hollywood's Claw, David, who raped 13 black women.
Mm-hmm. Serious issue.
And how it to me was not greatly publicized.
Yeah.
But had David been Daquan, and he raped 13 white women, and this is not me being sensitive. This is being realistic. This is what is. What happens to us seems to be
Less important. Not as it doesn't ring as loud as it would be, in other situations.
which is part of the reason why I'm inclined to believe he selected black women, impoverished black women, to assault because they were easy targets.
And he
And
knew he could easily get away with it,
right,
or more easily get away with it.
he thought that's what because he wailed when they gave his
Yeah.
sentencing,
Yeah.
and he just like the 18 years, 36 years, and he cried, but you would really believe that he was innocent. Or was he scared that I'm a cop that raped black women?
Oh, he's about to get raped in jail, so that's what he's scared of. He's about to get that back on him. So he got his
Done.
punishment. Yeah,
He's
So-
done, son.
his butthole is.
Oh,
It is what it is.
all right.
It's gone. It's about to be gone.
Next issue.
No, but that you really bring up a good point. I was watching a video, I think just yesterday, where it was sort of kind of a parody, but it was a series of video where it was a white guy. He walked up to a unmarked police car. And tried to issue the officer a citation because he in his unmarked car I think they were in the state of Washington, like his unmarked car, and I think that's pretty much every state is supposed to have some sort of marking on to let people know that you're a police officer, because otherwise it puts civilians in danger. Anybody could be just coming up and stopping you, and you don't have any sort of markings on your car. So this the white guy, he talks to the cop. I mean, he talks to him very politely. Hey, I'm issuing you a citation today because you don't have this on it. And the cop was very respectful to him. Now, this was on, I don't know if you guys watched that show on YouTube, the Young Turk show, and the guy with you probably have seen it before, you just don't know the name of it. But anyway, they talked about it on his show, and the guy that does the programming for his show is a black guy, and they asked him what he thought about it. And he shared some of the same thoughts that you just said about, if that had been a black guy that walked up to a white police officer and said, hey, the reason I'm stopping you today and issuing you a citation, this would have turned out to be an entirely different situation. Now, of course, we have no concrete proof of that's happening. So, but we're talking about in light of history, in light of the facts of the way things have happened, that most likely that would have been a different situation.
In 2015 alone, how things have happened. When we talked about the shooting, he killed the 9 in the church in South Carolina, and he was arrested, and they went and got him a hamburger.
Stopped and gave him something to eat.
Yeah, and that was it. Like, come on, it kind of takes me back to higher learning, when the boy was like a Nazi killing people,
Yeah.
and so they stop and accost Omar Epps' character and throw him to the ground, and then the guy who's done all the killing with the
Yeah.
Confederate flag, by the way,
Right.
it was like, they, please, no, son, we want to save you, we want to help you, but he's killed all these people. Why is that same kindness or grace not
Right.
extended to someone that looks like me?
Right. Which brings us into another big issue of 2015. Sandra Bland.
Mm.
Exact same courtesy thing that we're talking about. Like, basically, it can be summed up that this woman died over a cigarette.
Pretty much.
The officer felt threatened,
Mm-hmm.
His
By-
authority was threatened.
which is basically what it comes down to, by a cigarette. Now, I mean, with Sandra Bland was well within her rights. She was in her car. She did not have to put out a cigarette or anything like that. She was well within her rights. She got taken out of her car. They got into a brawl. I know you guys remember the story. She got taken out of her car. They got into a brawl. The camera kind of pans away so we don't see what exactly happens when she gets slammed down to the concrete, but
As
she's
he
screaming.
takes her out of the view of the camera.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As she gets slammed down to the concrete, and she says that, that's messed up. Like,
You're hurting me.
you're hurting me, or something saying you slammed, that's messed up. You slammed me down to the concrete or something like that. And that situation just blows out of proportion. And then, she turns out dead like a few days later.
But let's go back. I'm watching the video cam of this Sandra Bland situation, and not even a few stops before her, another young woman is speeding through a school zone. And I don't know if she didn't have insurance or what have you. He's like, oh, my dad's taking care of it. It's like, well, make sure you watch what you're doing. And real calm. When she had actually committed a crime,
Yeah.
however minute, but he gave her a warning. You have a great day. Same dash cam.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to say, well, what had happened in his day that could have agitated him? But it was nothing other than her refusal.
But even that, man, like, that's not an excuse. Like, I don't.
It's not
When you
not
you
an
put on a
excuse,
badge-
an explanation.
Right, sure. But even with that, like, when you put on a badge, I mean, look, we all have bad days. We do. I mean, some mornings I wake up groggy, and I things easily irritate me. But when it comes down to whether or not that irritation is going to allow me to put somebody's life in danger,
Right.
that's a whole nother level of irritation. We're talking about like the other stuff we were talking about, a humanity issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a problem with this person. And the problem is generally what you said. It's about authority. So
I think it's more to this story, though. I mean, that hasn't come out.
I don't think it will.
I didn't do a lot of research on her, but it did come out to me to some degree that she was an activist. She was speaking against police brutality. And there's some videos of her actually talking on, doing a video saying some things to some young people. And
Yeah,
she got interrupted by cops in a mall or something. So I don't know if that's a factor, but
well, would
Yes, it is.
the cop that have stopped her known that?
I don't know. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
I'm inclined
who
to
knows?
think not that it's coincidental, but whatever the case may be, this was a situation that did not have to be.
No,
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of situations in there.
I mean,
literally all of them.
because we
Brings
can,
us to Tamir Rice.
mm,
That's a young boy
12 years old.
with a fake gun.
And the officer pulled out that gun within 6 seconds.
And that's what I'm saying, is like, you would think, like, even, and I understand, like, police officers' jobs are hard, so I don't want to negate that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take anything away from the work that they have
That's
to
an
do.
excuse.
It's not an excuse.
To me,
but
it is.
I'm being empathetic to what police officers have to go through sometimes on a daily basis. Sometimes they do. You run up on an idiot that pulls a gun out on you. You may have less than 6 seconds to do something about it before you get shot. However, I do believe also that when you become a police officer and you have a weapon in your possession that can kill anybody on by you pulling a trigger, that requires a greater level of responsibility and discretion of how you use it. Now, I don't know what was going through this officer's mind. Just from my perspective, if I had pulled up, I had got And here's the thing about it: the call that they received, that the officer received from the complaint that said that Tamir Rice was walking around with a gun, they told him that said the gun is probably fake. They
Yeah.
told him that in the call. So it would seem to me that, first of all, if I'm walking up now, they also said that Tamir Rice, when the cop showed up, that he was probably trying to show him that the gun was not real. That's
Let me give it
probably
to
what
him.
was
Yep.
happening. Now, I do, again, I'm trying to be as empathetic as I can and understand that he had something that appeared to be a gun and he was raising it. I understand that that's something that causes alarm, but it would seem to me as an officer that if I got that kind of report, first of all, I would be approaching this scene with extreme caution and extreme discretion about, me pulling out my gun, especially if I had already been told that this gun was probably fake. Now, there were other kids and stuff around this boy. I'm not sure even what else could have been done, but
Can we shoot to disable, not
right,
to kill?
exactly. That's my thing. The whole thing with all
No.
of the rest of the cases.
We can't.
Like these, I mean, and they're like that's the whole thing. Like they're 14, 15, 16 shots are being fired at, young African American males
And women.
and women.
Because this woman was just killed the other day, opening the door for the police officer. Oh, we're so sorry. It was an accident. But she's gone.
And here's the thing, guys. Here's the biggest kicker about this. As of
No indictments.
you said it,
No
no indictments for any of these cases, all the way back to Trayvon Martin, all the way up to, was it just yesterday or the day before yesterday, Tamir Rice?
The day before yesterday?
Yeah, that no indictment for the police officers from them.
Young girl killed by a police officer coming into a home with his grandmother was confronting the officer when he came in the apartment or the house, and the little girl was on the couch. She shot the girl dead. Nothing happened to him.
It's like, guys, I mean, just in light of that sort of these sort of things, you have to be willing to admit that there is some level of bias that happens here. Now, on any other day, I'm all for the black race and stuff like that. I'm on the side for justice and what's right and what's right and wrong. I don't care what the color of your skin is. If you're black and you do something wrong,
You should be.
just like we're talking about Bill Cosby, if he did what he did, he should probably
Oh, yeah.
No, he should definitely.
yeah. So I mean, it's not a question about it, and the black race does commit crimes just like every other race does.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be willing to admit
Please admit it.
that there is at least a level of bias here that doesn't exist with other races,
Right.
particularly the white race,
Right.
particularly the right race. Now, just to kind of wrap this up, another way to let me be fair about it is one of the things that we haven't really talked about is the media's part in this whole thing.
Right.
Now, the media does blow stuff up like this. With the example you just said with the guy who raped 13 black women, part of that is media. Part of that is media coverage. I'm sure stuff like that happens, more often than we would like to admit or even know about. But the media picks and chooses what they want to air and stuff like that. And then
Just like they didn't air the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March. But go on.
that's another thing. Million people, over a million. I think they said it was 2 million
Yeah.
black there or something like that.
But that's positive with black people. Let's not talk about that.
And I want you just to kind of stay right there for a minute and segue into what you were saying about there is some kind of bias. I want to, we can segue into the whole Black Lives Matter thing that that blew up this year, in contrast to All Lives Matter. I mean, we have to address that consistently because
Sure.
To say Black Lives Matter and to turn around and negate it with All Lives Matter is, to me, it's an insult. Because to say Black Lives Matter is to bring awareness, to let you know, hey, we see this and we want to make you aware. This is what we see and we want you to see it. To say All Lives Matter is to negate it, is to brush it off like what you're saying is not true. I don't believe you. We should look at everyone. Well, we're showing you that everyone is not being considered when it comes to respect and how we're treated by the people who are authoritative over us, and how we go through our daily lives, dealing with work and raising our children. We really need to put more focus on the issue that we're trying to make everyone aware of.
Sure.
And to say all lives matter basically just pushes that out the door. So I think we should really put more emphasis on race relations in 2016.
Sure,
would be
and then
nice.
a part of that's a really good point. A part of that too, though, is I think based in the oversensitivity that I was speaking to earlier. I think people, for some reason, something has happened, and I can't put a finger on it, but something has happened. I think over the past 5-10 years in our societies that sort of have just, I guess, displaced people in certain ways. People are looking for something to be a part of. People are, and regardless to what it is, it's that really goes even to a lot of the stuff that we're talking about that we'll probably talk about in 2016 with Donald Trump and a lot of the other presidential candidates. That really people can say anything. Like a person like Donald Trump can get up and say anything he wants to say, however he wants to say it, and then he can get people on his team. By saying that. And that says something not only about him, that says something about our society and the people that are willing to follow him. For him to be up in the polls the way that he is, and I'm not, as of right now, I'm not speaking necessarily against him. I'm just talking about what's actually happening. And because he has had some pretty foul stuff, and by any definition, but the way he's talked about minorities, black people, and Mexicans and stuff like that.
And women.
I mean, there's no denying that he said some messed up stuff, and then you have people that's on his team, with that kind of stuff. That says something to me. That says that people are just searching to be a part of something. The whole, God, I'm biting my tongue saying it again. The Starbucks cup thing, where you have to get people arguing about something like that, like something that's so trivial that does not matter in any kind of way. I think something has happened that just has displaced people, and people are looking for something to be a part of. You get online about anything in the online movie punditry community, which I'm a part of. You get people in there arguing about which movies are the best, Marvel and DC. Who has the better, and there are die-hard Marvel fans. Hey, I'm not going to watch anything that DC puts out. DC, I'm not going to watch anything that Marvel puts out. When at the end of the day, all of us want just a good movie. Right. We want to see a good comic book movie. That's what we all want at the end of the day. But it has to be this team of some sort of
us against them.
Yeah, it always has to be that in some kind of way, and that just hasn't. That's really a big problem with all of this stuff, undergirding a lot of this stuff that we're talking about. When a cop again can shoot somebody, cold-blooded, no reason. And then you have people that come out and say, well, that's what he got. That's what he gets. He shouldn't have been in a park as a kid playing with a toy gun. I mean, so
the list really does go on and on. There's so many names that we haven't even touched on. Corey Jackson, who had a gun, and he was on the side of the road with a flat. He ends up dead. I mean,
the musician. So, that kind of touches us in a,
I'm left wondering, though, then what is our mode of protection? And the young lady said, who was raped by the cop, she's like, well, what cop do you call on cops?
Yeah.
That's a
really
very valid question. Who do you call?
Right.
When you can't trust who's supposed to protect you. So I don't know. It's like a child who's molested by her father, and you're supposed to be the one who covers me and loves me and supports me, but you're the one who hurts me.
Right.
So I feel like we need to find a way to heal, and that's the constant thing that my mantra. We need to find a way to heal our race relations, our relationships with each other.
Absolutely. One thing I do know, though, that whatever it is that it's going to take for us to heal, that it's not going to come through, again, those things that these presidential candidates are talking about that are basically managing crisis situations. That's basically all they're doing. It's not going to come through that kind of stuff. It's not going to be through us arguing and debating back and forth about, trivial issues. It's going to come through, us as humans sitting down with each other and being empathetic with one another and trying to understand, look, I'm white, you're black. at the end of the day, we're both human beings. We both bleed the same blood. I know I was raised a certain way. I know you was raised a certain way. I may not agree with everything you do or say or how you are as a black person, and you may not agree that, you know, how I am as a white person, the particular things I do as a white person. But at the end of the day, we're both humans, and we can relate to each other, and we can coexist on that level. And it's really as simple as that. I don't understand anything else. I don't understand why it has to be not that kind of stuff like, okay, I'm white and you're black and we coexist. We don't necessarily have to agree on everything, but we coexist. It has to go beyond that with our humanity. It has to be, you're black, I'm white, I'm better than you, and I have to act that way, and I have to act that out, and I'm going to do things to make myself feel like I'm better than you, to, you know, stroke my ego and whatever those things may be. You know, if it's white people killing black people because I'm the authority and I can tell you what to do, and it just pans out in so many different ways. So that's the one thing I do know. It's not going to come through those sort of, you know, let's put fences up around the border and block all the Mexicans out and all of the, you know, the ISIS people, send them back, and, you know, the Muslims, that's what I meant to call them. Let's send those people back where they came from, or, you know, all this kind of stuff. It's not going to come through that kind of stuff. So anyway, guys, that's our, all of the biggest stories that happened, or at least most of them that happened in 2015 that we dealt with mostly anyway. There's, of course, a lot of other things that we couldn't talk about because of time issues in the video. But what are you guys' final thoughts on, you know, 2015? Like, and what are you looking forward to for 2016?
Well, I mean, it was a disastrous year. I mean, to be quite honest, I mean, so many things happened, so much turmoil, so many people are dealing with loved ones, and, you know, not necessarily with the things we dealt with, you know, tragedies with weather and other things. But I mean, we just have to look and be more optimistic in 2016. I mean, I know it looks kind of bleak. You know, things aren't seeming like they're getting better, but we have to have that hope that we can change what we see.
I'm gonna leave on a positive note. 2015 was a hell of a year for me, personally. But my daughter did graduate and went to Howard, and that eats up a lot of my money. But on a real positive note, Grambling beat Southern.
Hey.
In the Bayou Classic.
Yes.
2015.
And I'm going to post a link to my video about that in the notes of this. So, I also think I want to put the whole year in perspective. I know there was, as far as the media is concerned and political issues, there's been a lot of negative stuff that's happened. There's been, you know, all of the stuff we named, the cases with the black, you know, individuals being shot by white police officers, more movie theater shootings. I mean, it's been a lot of stuff that has happened. School shootings, church shootings. I mean, the whole nine. And it seems like that stuff is, you know, still sort of bubbling and boiling over. However, I do think there's a lot of positive things that, you know, in the midst of all these things that don't get, you know, brought out to light, that we may not be discussing, or we may not even know about, because that's not what's presented to us on a daily basis. For me personally, 2015 has been a fairly good year. I mean, I honestly have no complaints. I mean,
that's nice.
I don't have any complaints. Like, I have a birthday coming up in a couple of weeks, so turning a big number in age, so I'm excited about that. I have a daughter that's about to be 21 years old in 3 days from now. It's so crazy, right? So I mean, it's pretty cool. At the end of the day, I can still say that, you know, I'm happy. I'm honestly happy, in spite of all of the negative stuff. I'm looking forward to, you know, 2016. Look, one of the things I'm looking forward to in 2016. Look, we got 7 comic book movies coming out in 2016. You can roll your eyes all you want to. 2016 is about to be hype. Deadpool. Batman versus. Look, have you seen the Deadpool trailer? Oh, you got to check out the new Red Band. You got to check out the new one. Batman versus Superman, Suicide Squad, Doctor Strange. What else am I missing? X-Men Apocalypse, Captain America Civil War. Like, it's going to be hype next year, man. So, like, hey, if you're a movie fan, 2016 is like the year to be alive. Like, it's the year to be glad to be alive. So, anyway, that's our official wrap-up video, guys, for the year of 2015. Look forward to a lot of more videos coming from us in 2016. You know, a lot of the presidential race videos are going to be coming out that we're going to be talking about very soon. A lot of other, world issues and stuff like that that we're going to be doing. So for 2015, guys, we are signing off with our last video again of 2015. So thank you all for checking out our show. Please subscribe to our channel. We still have all our videos on our YouTube channel, so please subscribe to our channel. Check out everything that's going on there. And until 2016, guys,
Be careful.
Peace.
Stay safe.